Hey, boys and girls, weather report for April 2nd, 2021. Is it really April 2nd? Huh?
Yes.
That's not a whole thing, is it?
By the way, can I just say that that I noticed a little midnight just flying up into the screen.
Oh, the what was flying up?
Never mind.
Oh, you mean my intro?
Yeah, I was looking at the image, and all of a sudden I saw midnight just flying. Never mind. It was a nice touch. I never noticed that before.
I am trying to find a spot on a video. 125, 43. Working on it. Okay, so for the show icon, I picked a Wikipedia picture on the cell. I don't know if anybody cares if my show matches my icons or not. But is everybody familiar with all those parts of the cell?
Probably not me.
I remember. I know the nucleus. Like, I guess that's number 2. Vaguely.
Oh, where is it? Let me show it here. What the hell? I thought maybe since I couldn't think of anything else to put up, I decided to put this up. So put it on the stream here. Anyway, so
okay, 9 is definitely mitochondria, so that's easy. 4, what are those like? What
the hell was let's see, I think it was just the cell. I can't remember where I got the link.
So what number are we up to?
What number are we up to? We're not up to any numbers.
On the cell picture. So I assume 1 and 2 are the nucleus.
Oh gee, let's see. Oh, hang on a second. Hold on a second. I don't have the caption for it. Why don't I have the caption for it? Some bitch. Hold on a second. Many things are going wrong. So anyway, how's everybody doing today? So
fantastic.
Yes.
So how much of that stream yesterday did you watch, David, on Praises? That was about atheism. I should really have looked at that one.
Yeah, I didn't. Did I? How much did I go through? I don't think I really didn't watch very much of it. I jumped on. Let's see. It was a ways into it. I guess it would have been probably almost about an hour into it, and that's when I got in my little fight with Gavin. Of course, me and Gavin don't seem to see eye to eye, so we started getting in a little argument on in the side chat, and I didn't actually go back to see if there was anything relevant. I think a lot of it, I know praise was going on quite a bit about just Bible stuff, talking about Bible verses and all that. So I didn't really go back to check anything prior to that. So
okay, but there must have been some juicy stuff. I mean, what triggered him to do the acrimonious state of atheists is hilarious. They're just
well, you have to. Him and Jay have been doing basically response videos back and forth. They've been doing this for days now. This has been going on for 4 or 5 days at least, I think. Him and Jay, they've been battling, and a lot of it has been, it's all biblical stuff, biblical slavery. So Jay has been doing a bunch of streams on that also. He actually had Dr. Josh on yesterday. So, you know, and of course that triggers Dr. Joss triggers praise quite a bit. So that's a lot of that. They've been battling back and forth. I haven't really been following much of it, a little bit, but not much of that. So that's a big part of that. Yeah.
Jay and Jefferson and Dr. Josh, they kind of go after the Bible. They do. I guess it's called an internal critique.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, Jay and Jefferson, both of them are, their theology is really good. Like, they know the Bible very well. I believe, they come from a very highly religious family, and so they know it very well. Jefferson especially. So yeah. They talk a lot about that because they know it quite a bit,
Yep.
So
anyway, so just on this cell diagram here, so number 2 is the important one. That's the nucleus, and number 1 is the nucleolus, and that's where a lot of RNAs and the ribosomal RNAs are created, and that's kind of the special little area where all the chromosomes kind of dip their tail into this area in the nucleus, and there's a different kind of a manufacturing system going on there. And then the rest of what's in the nucleus is, where transcription happens, and that is where the mRNA is created, and it is capped on both ends to save it to it's like packaged. It's like like if you imagine a meat packing plant where they're packing wieners, they create the RNA and then package it up and stick labels on the end so that it gets exported out to that big blue area, number 5, which is the rough endoplasmic reticulum, which has ribosomes. Those little dots are actually ribosomes that do the translation into proteins, and they do it into membranes. And those are mostly proteins that are going to be used in membranes or have something to do with transport, or they're going to end up outside of your cell, or maybe in the membrane of your cell, or in one of these other structures in your cell. And then that number 6 is a Golgi apparatus, which is in charge of adding all kinds of sugars to proteins and doing all sorts of like post-manufacturing processing, and also putting things out into the cell membrane itself and creating other structures. And let's see, 8 is the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, which does a little bit more manufacturing and processing of proteins. Now, some ribosomes are floating around out in a cell all over the place, and they create proteins that end up inside the cell fluid, the cytosol, the body of the cell or whatever. And then there's number 9, there's your mitochondrium, and number 10 is a vacuole, which is kind of filled with enzymes and fluid and does some other processing. 13 is in charge of dividing the cell. Number 4, I don't know, just a vesicle. Nothing too exciting there. Number 12 is a lysosome, which, takes I believe that eats up proteins and stray shit that's in it. So kind of a garbage collection device sort of thing.
I have a quick question.
What's that?
So you look at, obviously these type of things are really good for me because I don't know shit about it, but visual things like this help me out a lot. So some of these other structures or some of these other things you're talking about, like say number 4, obviously number 9's the DNA, 10, 12. Now those things are smaller portions and those are more floating around the cell, but yet like the 6 there does more and is a bigger structure of it. Is that correct? Or?
6 is, let's see, what is 6?
Would be a bigger structure. It does.
Oh, 6 is the Golgi apparatus, which is kind of, it comes in layers like that endoplasmic reticulum, but right. it's like a sequence of sheets, one on top of the other. And if a protein goes from 1 to 2 to 3, it keeps getting more modifications until it ends up on the end. And so was that the question? Yeah, the the spherical things, lysosomes and things like that and vesicles do. They will have inside of them like cholesterol machinery and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're like little special machines on their own, and some of them end up being garbage collectors and all that stuff. So those are little spherical ones. Okay. But number 6, and the endoplasmic reticulum is connected to the nucleus, and they probably co-evolved in some sort of infolding of either the outer membrane or maybe some other archaea or bacteria attack them, and it ended up being incorporated inside of them. So looking at how those things evolved is kind of cool. They're all sort of related, the Golgi and the endoplasmic reticulum and the nucleus itself. And there's a whole lot of phylogenetic evidence about how those things are actually used. Parts of the proteins are actually found in prokaryotes or bacteria that don't have nucleus or endoplasmic reticulum or any of that stuff. So there's fossil evidence inside of those structures that it came from the bacteria and definitely evolved, that sort of thing. But does that answer the question?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway,
have we covered number 9 yet? Because I want to say it's
that's mitochondria.
Mitochondria. So there's more than one mitochondria in cells.
Well, I think there's about 1,000 of them.
I thought it was just like one big mitochondria. So these are those little power packs. Which
every cell type will probably have differing amounts, but they're in hundreds and thousands.
Okay,
so,
I did not know that.
Yeah, and those things they're like their own organism inside the cell, and they have their own phylogenies inside the cell and their own mutations, and of course we're interested in the ones that came from your mama. Because those end up in your germline,
right?
And those don't have an opportunity to divide too much. But when you get a zygote from your mom, you could have a population of mitochondria inside of that zygote, right? With variation between them, so they would have slight variations in their genome in between them, and those things are what you inherit directly from the maternal line, and that, of course, is what Standing for Truth is famous for fucking up and misunderstanding. And there is a mechanism to keep your daddy's mitochondria from coming from the sperm and getting into the zygote. When pretty much daddy's only job is to deliver a nucleus, the DNA, basically from the sperm. Everything else is kind of ruled out. But every now and then,
evolution favored keeping nuclei, or whatever the plural is, and mitochondria from separate people.
Yeah, and that may not actually be a smart thing for evolution to have done. There might have been
what?
Yeah, may not have been the smartest thing. I don't know. There's a lot of diseases that are a result of getting a messed up mitochondria from your mama, or one of those mitochondria being messed up. And
all I know is I want to go to Walgreens and get a bag of jelly beans now.
Oh yeah, jelly beans will help keep your mitochondria healthy. That's well known.
That's good. It's for medical reasons.
Yeah, I learned that from Dr. Trump. So, but the thing is, now what I said before, there's a population of mitochondria in your cells. So it's its own evolving population of things, and it manages to have its own kind of natural selection and all of that stuff. And there's a lot more to learn about it that I do not know, as far as, Standing for Truth and his bullshit about, the pedigrees that they've taken are, you see, when you take a pedigree, like if I were to analyze your mitochondria in your cells right now today, they've been around for, 30 plus years, however old you are. And they're going to be, mutated. And I have to pick in your cell. There's a whole population of them that could have a whole ton of variation. I could pick one that was exactly like your mama's and had no mutations at all. Or I could pick one that had 20 mutations, It's just a matter of luck. And they have to do a little bit of statistical analysis to make sure that they get the germline, and they do that by doing these triads where they will get you and your daughter and her daughter and or son, and they will take everybody's and they'll try to figure out, okay, what mutations are in all three of you, and then they'll go back and they'll compare to grandma and find out, okay, that mutation happened between grandma and mama. So they can do some of that, but that's I don't know how many people and how much good data we have on that, but Standing for Truth takes Dr. Jensen, who went and read papers basically and got numbers out of papers and put them in Excel spreadsheets and came up with this whole bullshit idea that he can prove 6,000 years with mitochondrial DNA. But anyway, what
I think a lot of people that is wrong.
Yep. I'm working on cell biology and I have a long way to go. And I wanted to start with like this diagram and possibly do some cell biology videos that dig into some of this. And the most important thing I want to dig into is, how did that evolve? Because if you go type that into Google, how did the Golgi apparatus evolve? You'll find all kinds of papers on it, all kinds of ideas and hypotheses. And it's a very interesting field. So anyway.
I have a quick question. Well, a question/statement. So for a lay person like me, you look at this, right? And it's like, holy shit, we know so much, right? I mean, Look at how much you know. And for a lay person like me, it's kind of hard to comprehend, like, how do we know all this? I know there's so much more to learn, obviously. That's the obvious answer. We don't know it all. But you look at it and say, well, how the frick do we know this much, but yet we can't, cure cancer, or we can't cure certain diseases, or we can't, so that's, for a lay person, it's kind of hard to marry those together, right?
An excellent question, but here's the problem. Here's our problem. Okay. When I say the cell is a puddle of mud, all of these structures that you see that they depicted here are sort of a reduced cartoon idea of what's going on in the cell, right? The actual, what's really happening in the cell is a million networks, or maybe even a billion subnetworks that we don't understand, many of which do nothing at all, some of which are close to doing something, a lot of which do have some effect on the cell, right? But everybody's genome is different. You've had mutations. There are genes that get translated and transcribed into proteins, and the protein goes and fits into a biochemical pathway and ends up dead ending and doing nothing at all other than wasting time and energy and that sort of thing. And those are the things that mutate and cause cancers. And so what is really going on in the cell is a massive network of perhaps as many as 100,000 different compounds. And we have to decode all of those networks and find out what goes wrong with them. And that's what cancer study is all about, is decoding all of these different things and trying to figure out what goes wrong in these cells. And then there is what goes wrong. There's three things. There's what goes wrong, deleterious. There is some does nothing at all, neutral. And there are benefits where something locks into a new pathway. So you might have a pathway to make a particular amino acid, and you have another pathway, or maybe even three more, that actually are working in your cell to make amino acids, but they're not as prevalent, ubiquitous, right? And you'll pass that information down, and at some point you may hit upon a pathway that creates that amino acid a lot easier with less basically starting material maybe, and all of a sudden we'll acquire an ability for nutrition that we didn't have before. And that may not be important at all unless you're looking at a population of animals that runs into a situation where a nutrient disappears and they just so happen to have this other pathway laying around that employs a different nutrients. To get to the same place, they will live, the other ones will die. And you got evolution. So if you were to look at evolution, you'd have to have a computer the size of the goddamn solar system just to tell you what's going on in that one cell. Because this is a cartoon, and you don't ever want to mistake the cartoon for the reality, right?
Yeah,
Right,
no,
right.
it
That's
messed me up
the-
because
yeah.
yeah, it
Go
messed
ahead,
me up
go ahead.
because I just see the in my mind just kind of a flat disc almost for a cell, but that's obviously not true.
Yeah. Yeah, and then on top of that, there are so many things they're not showing in the cell. They're not showing these microtubules that you famously see the little walking guy on carrying stuff around, or the intermediate filaments, which give the cell its shape and structure. And there's intermediate filaments that keep that Golgi apparatus in place and that endoplasmic reticulum. And there's a constant dynamic replacement of all these parts going on. You don't see any of that, and there's just a puddle of mud there that we're trying to decode. And the more you learn, the more you realize you got more to learn. So, and it's incredible. Cell biology books are wonderful. I've got 2 of them that I own the hard copy, and I have the PDF versions of them. And I'd like to go through some of this and explain how some of these different compartments work and what they mean.
As long as you bring plenty of pictures.
Yeah, this overview is helpful. You know, it's nice to have a good starting place so that you know where to hang the knowledge. Because I don't know how many of you would know right off the hand what a Golgi apparatus or endoplasmic reticulum was.
Those 2 things I remember hearing, so I must have had it like in biology class in college and high school, but I really didn't say anything about it.
Yeah, they don't really explain it enough to tell you how these wonderful little things work. They're really cool. Those little dots on there, those little ribosomes, they're doing incredible shit. That it's almost like mama with a needle and thread, sewing your pants. They actually sew proteins into the membrane, and they'll cross once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, up to 7 times, cross the membrane. And there'll be a little protein machine sitting in your membrane. And that little protein machine allows you to smell roses. That's one of the things it does, along with 2,000 other varieties and things that it does, and I think...
is there a different protein for each odor, or do some of these aromas do double duty on the same protein?
I think there's a different one for every odor. I'd have to... I believe I know that, but I'm not sure if I know that there's that for every, I think we have like 10,000 different ones. So we have a huge odor genome,
it's not surprising, but it's still amazing.
Right. And when you think about it, when I was talking about philosophy of morality, morality is very much bound in our brains to smelling things.
Right.
And that's why we call people trash clowns when we don't like their morals, right? Or we have all these smell words that we use to depict moral things, because we've got a big smell part of our brain. And if you look at a Saint Bernard, it's fucking worse. They see in terms of smells, their visual processing is smaller than their olfactory, and they have, I think, 100,000 different receptors for smell, something like that. So when you're taking your dog for a walk and he wants to go sniff the side and he's, getting all excited and he's like following some scent trail, he's seeing the world with his nose, whereas you're seeing him fucking up your walk.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Anyway, it's all connected, a lot of exciting stuff, and I think that concludes the science portion of the program, boys and girls. Okay.
Well, that was amazing.
Okay.
When's the exam?
Just me musing. I'm sure if Christopher had been here, he would have tore my asshole on 5 details that I got wrong. So don't listen to me. I'm old and fucking high school dropout.
Yeah, well, I'm starting to get it a little bit. I mean, I don't know any of it really. So,
well, the thing is,
it's fun.
We have to question evolution, and we should question evolution. And there should be a way for people who understand the biology to tell you in common sense terms how some of this shit works, to the point where, you know, we become firmer in our belief, whatever, you know, we're justified, you know, rather than taking it on authority, which is pretty much what we all do about a lot of science, you know, is that scientists, you know, believe that there's a moon, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And they have proof.
Yeah. And, you know, you talk about the creationists, or, you know, the Christians that we deal with on a daily basis here online. It's amazing that, you know, why is it that you can't trust the scientists that are doing the studies and doing this research? It's not just one scientist. It's a group of scientists. It's all peer-reviewed papers. Everybody's going through it all. They're all doing, you know, different types of experiments, and you know, but it goes against their religion, so they just won't accept it.
Yeah, there's millions of scientists working on this stuff. And the thing is that,
exactly. That's, yeah, I was just kind of dumbing it down. Sorry, but didn't mean to interrupt you. But yeah, that's my point, is that's, you know, there's tons and tons of different tests, different experiments, different scientists. They're all, you know, and they're all, you know, collaborating together with, you know, in different fields, not just one, you know, not just one field. And, you know, but they just, you listen to them, they throw it all out the window because it goes against their beliefs. It's crazy.
Yeah, and worse yet, I could spend the rest of my life, if I have 30 years left, you know, if I make it to 100, I spend that 30 years studying the ribosome, and I still wouldn't fucking know much. You know, just the ribosome. Just so all these scientists are in our little silos, and they're putting the other pieces of the puzzle. And what we're doing on YouTube, what I like to do is synthesize many areas together as much as possible. You know, try to bring it all together, and that, I think, is what is wonderful about this developing internet and YouTube. As there are a lot of people that you know will gather all this diverse knowledge and start putting it together and communicating it to other people. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of nice too that we're lucky enough that people with actual PhDs actually get on. Yeah, right, exactly. Usually people that are that degree of education, they don't waste their time with the average Joe, like, or not necessarily the average Joe, but then they're not going to, like, most of them are not going to waste their time with some idiot Christian or what, you know, that's just wants to deny it all or stuff like that, you know, or I don't know, maybe that's not explaining it very well, but it's nice to see that they're actually participating. They're actually, you know, teaching us lay people, and, you know, hopefully they're making an impact, you know.
Damn, Dessel and I have to have a fight about Ellen Watts. That's for goddamn sure. Showdown, fight, match.
Is he dissing Alan Watts?
He's dissing Ellen Watts, and it's just like,
that's
you know,
all.
That's like saying Jesus sucks, you know, for a Christian. I mean, I love Ellen Watts, but Ellen Watts is pretty much misunderstood. A lot of woo heads love Ellen Watts because they can use his stuff for woo, and but you gotta really read his books to figure him out. So anyway, okay, so you had a fight on Praise's channel last night, David, and
yes.
I have a. Should we just listen to the Gavin part?
Sure. Unless you.
I have it captured.
I'm wondering if I should give you a little background. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, let's take a look at.
Maybe, yeah. If you want, yeah. Let me see. If we listen to it, I may say foreskin, and stop you a couple. It's only the whole thing. Him ranting is probably only 3 or 4 minutes. It's not a long thing, and I may kind of stop a little bit and kind of give you a little bit of background, but it's nothing. It was just stupid. Gavin's a pain, you know. You know, Gavin, he's very hateful. You know, he hates atheists. My goodness, you know, very hateful. And, look at all the stuff that Jay and Jefferson, Red Fang, those guys all go on there. They get booted all the time. They're always battling. Most of their stuff is battling over biblical stuff, But
yeah, I'm trying to find. Did I misspell Lori? What the hell? So why am I not finding you?
Laure.
Yeah.
Maybe I misspelled it. I don't know. Okay, there's Hayes. Okay, so here you are at 52. Told you already there's no hope for you.
Yeah, that's kind of how it started. Well, what triggered me, Gavin, okay, so I'll start with that. Gavin asked the question. He kept asking it over and over to any atheist. Of course, first he started with today's Atheist Day. Congratulations, or let's whatever. He was saying that stuff. Then this was yesterday. So then he kept asking the question, what hope does atheism have for me? Actually, it may be right. Is that it right there? I think it is.
Hang on a second. I'm having
trouble. What hope
I'm having a time with my headphones, guys. What the hell? Let me try this again. I'm trying to switch over to headphones. Say something, guys.
Okay, yeah, you were fading out a little bit up for me. Was he fading out? Was Speed fading out for you guys a little bit too earlier?
Am I fading?
I didn't feel like he was fading, but I've been
sounds fine.
Dividing my attention.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I seem to have a good connection in it. I don't know if it was on my end or not, but you did fade out. You kind of blinked out a little bit just for a split second on me. So,
okay, maybe I was fucking with my sound. Maybe I hit the wrong button. But okay now. Okay, so where are we?
Yeah.
So we can go through.
So yeah, it's up to you. So anyway, like I said, so what's probably, I think what actually started it was he asked that question, what hope does atheism have for me, right? So that was the question he asked. So that's kind of what kicked it off. And of course, I actually answered that. Actually, it started yesterday morning. When I got up in the morning yesterday morning, they were still on from the night before. Those guys, they go all night long. So It was kind of funny. And when I got up, I'm an early riser. I get up in the morning and all of a sudden they're still on. So I clicked on it, right? And he said that he asked that question that yesterday morning and I answered it, right? So that was yesterday, but irregardless. So that's what kicked it off. But for some reason, he seems to be on the kick of asking that question, right? So he started doing it again in this stream, right? So so then I started, and then that was my comment. What did I put in there? I think I put, there's no hope for you, Gavin. Yeah. And actually, Red Fang was the one who kind of started that. But yeah, and then I eventually said, there's no hope for irrational people like you, Gavin, that kind of stuff. So it was there was some battling back and forth, but eventually, like I said, he got pretty triggered and he had to get on the stream to talk with Praise. He stopped the stream, stopped Praise from doing his Bible study, and he was mad. He said he wants to ban me from Praise's channel and all that. So it got pretty carried away. It was kind of fun.
Cheryl says, Hayes, really? In my area, you're going to fly here? I wouldn't have a meal with someone who has said the most egregious things about myself and my friends, Gavin and Praise, and Olive. Run along.
Right. That was close. That was like pretty much at the end. Yes. I'll give you a little background on that. There was one day I tend to needle Cheryl a little bit, right?
Uh-huh.
And it started the other day. She was on Modern Day Debates. And I was kind of playing around and I said, Cheryl, we should get together sometime, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. I didn't say anything other than that, right? I'm thinking we should get together and talk sometime. Maybe I can relieve some of this hatred that you have towards atheists and, you wouldn't be so hateful, if you got to know me, that thing, right? Well, the first thing she says is, are you trying to make a pass at me? Right? That's what she said in Modern Day.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. And I said, what is wrong with you Christians? the first thing you go to is sexual. So what is wrong with you? Keep your mind. So I said, keep your mind out of the gutter, Cheryl. I meant talk, just talk, right? And then of course I teased her again, and I said in the chat, I said, me, you, and Gavin should get together. So where did she go with that?
Oh no! Did she really?
Oh yeah. I said, me, you, and Gavin should get together. And then are you suggesting a threesome? I thought you were a man. And that, she went on and on and on about that. It was hilarious, right? So then, of course, I said, what's wrong with you, Cheryl? How dare you? How dare you suggest such a thing? I wrote right back to her. I said, how dare you suggest such a thing? All I'm talking about is let's get together and talk, and maybe we can ease the tension, and I can alleviate some of the hate you have towards atheists. So those are the things that I was writing to her. But those two, Gavin and her, are just holy mackerel. They're off the wall. So anyway, that gives you a little bit of background about what's been going on. So that's
if anybody doesn't know Cheryl, if you just look at her picture, even if Hollywood were to write a Karen, a classic, caricature of a Karen, it would be her. It would be her. She's just absolutely perfect. And she came on somebody's stream a while back, and I was listening to her. She was the one that was going to call the FBI or something
with Jay.
That was on the Rage. She was going to call the FBI because they were doxing her or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, really?
She said, I have FBI friends in my family, and we're going to be talking to them about you. And it's like,
right.
She's precious. Just precious.
Right. I didn't know. I mean, I only heard bits and pieces of that, so I didn't actually see it but I did, I knew about that prior to this. I knew that. So
apparently Gavin went after your manhood.
Exactly. Oh, wait till you hear that part of it.
Oh, okay. So should we play the clip?
Oh, it's funny. And you also got to see what I wrote to him when he said that. I wrote to him, somebody that actually attacks somebody's manhood tends to have insecurity. Yeah,
it's right here. It's right on the screen in the middle.
Yep. You tend to be insecure about your own sexuality.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of things that went back and forth. But
here's Cheryl. Lori Hayes says, the one who suggested a threesome with Gavin and me. So she really is on that. Holy shit.
Oh yeah.
Holy shit.
And the funny thing is, later on, I wrote it in the end there in this chat. I wrote, excuse me, because Gavin talks about it, right? And I said, excuse me, I clarified that. I actually wrote, all I meant was we should get together and talk. Talk, I meant, not anything sexual. It's you can't keep your mind out of the gutter, which I clarified that. But, oh no, they won't accept that. They just go on and on about their garbage. It's quite funny, but let's put it this way. I am 100% guilty about needling them.
Yeah.
Right. I'm certainly, I guess you call it trolling. Right. I'm guilty. I freely admit that. I needle them, but you can't help but to respond to their stupidity. At least I can't help myself. They start spewing shit in these chats, and I just can't help myself but to respond. And then it triggers them. Holy Moses!
Yep.
So,
anyway.
But this is funny. He rants. I mean, he actually, you'll see, he had to get on this stream just to rant, and it's quite funny what he says.
Okay, I backed it up 15 seconds from where you said.
That's right where he's going to start. He's going to start right there, and he starts on his ring.
Still fucking around trying to find what he's trying to find, but that's okay.
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah,
I can hear fine.
Yeah, you keep going, Crows. Laurie Hayes, you're an atheist, radicalized, distorted atheist. I typed out your answer from last night's chat verbatim. It's not surprising that you deny what I've typed, because you're an atheist, and atheists are liars. Atheists are liars. Lying comes to atheism as easy it comes to lying comes to atheists as easy as breathing comes to everybody else. Yeah, I'm stumbling over my words here.
He's had a few drinks
because it's Good Friday here. Good Friday in New Zealand. We had Happy Atheist Day yesterday. It was great. So I asked the question of Laurie Hayes, who's been denied by Cheryl. Give up. You want me to sing? Sam? Yeah, Laurie Hayes, I'm choking you up with the truth. Doesn't it suck? Actually, in traditional Chinese medicine, what you're
foreskin for a second here.
Okay.
So right there, obviously he started that, and my comment in chat was, "You're choking me up, Gavin." So that's why he said that. So just to clarify, and then he continues on, and I say in the chat, and the tears are flowing now, Gavin, and so there's a little bit of back and forth just to give you a little background. But go ahead.
Okay, let's see. I was able for
yeah.
Okay, yeah, Gavin, you were choking me up. I see that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's funny, but it's only a few minutes.
Okay.
Plumstone throat.
What?
And it is always associated with levels of high stress. So you've been caught lying, which is, no big deal. No one really cares about that. And now you're being choked up because you've got a plumstone in your throat.
What the fuck is a plum? What is he talking about?
I have no idea what that is. I've never heard of that.
A plumstone in your throat?
Yeah, that's probably something biblical, I guess. I don't know. Never heard of that myself.
Okay,
but, yeah.
Good enough. Just checking.
It's not really a literal plumstone. It's more like a metaphorical plumstone.
Not literally.
One of the things that I was chatting with Praise and with Jesse Camping about, and a few others the other day, is that Laurie Hayes is saying it's Cheryl's loss. At the very least, she would get a free meal out of it. Laurie Hayes, trust me, you're not worth a free meal. Cheryl is a woman of God.
So foreskin.
She wouldn't stoop that.
Okay. Let me give you a tiny bit of background on that. Okay. So, like I said, I've been needling Cheryl a little bit, right? And what did she say? Oh, she made the comment one day. She says, "I wouldn't follow you into a 5-star restaurant." That was the comment that she made. Right? So this has been going on for several days. So now so that was the comment she made. So I wrote, and then one of the other Christians, Cabal or something is his name, and he's in Praise's chat all the time. He writes in there, he says, "I'd follow you into a 5-star restaurant if you're buying," right? Yeah. So that kicked the thing off. That kicked that whole thing off, right? So now I've been going back and forth with her, and I've been saying, "Cheryl, if you wanted to go to a 5-star restaurant, I would be glad to pay. If we could just sit down, and maybe if you got to know me, you wouldn't have so much hatred in your heart and things like that." So, like I said, this has been an ongoing thing. I've been kind of needling her. So just to give you a little background on that part of it.
Okay.
So
go ahead. Hi, Jay.
Hey, dude. Hey. What fresh hell is Gavin doing now?
What? he's attacking Lori's atheism or David's atheism. Yeah. David Lori.
Yeah.
Anyway, so was it Atheist Day yesterday or something?
No,
Yes.
they call it Atheist Day because it's April Fool's Day.
Oh, okay, I get it.
I told you that would happen, Speed.
Oh,
that's been an ongoing thing.
Oh my God. Okay.
That low. Okay, she wouldn't stoop that low.
Stoop that low.
So I get we might have to actually ban you, Laurie, because you exhibit a lot of sort of stalking traits. You chase after Cheryl on other channels, not only Praise's channel, and you stalk her and you make comments, and it's like really unhealthy. You know, what is wrong with you?
It's pretty unhealthy to be making comments in chat, right?
Right. You know, okay. Let me give
isn't
you
that what the fuck chat is?
I know. Let me give you a little background on that. The only time I've ever said anything or spoken to Cheryl is inside chat, and it was on Modern Day Debates. Gavin, I got news for you, buddy. The whole friggin' community goes to that channel. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not following her anywhere. I've run into her there. Of course, I run into her. She's at Praise's channel every day. That's an ongoing thing. Let's see. And maybe one other channel I've ran into her and I make a comment.
Do you know why this is a thing?
What's that?
I know why.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just Gavin. It's also the fact that something that you've probably said stuck in Cheryl's crawl, and then her and Olive will get yapping about it, and they will spin each other up, and then Gavin gets wind of it, and he doesn't like to see the ladies of the house getting worked up over an atheist.
Exactly.
And then he gets an even bigger burr up his butt. So
that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. I made a comment one day. This has been going on for like a good couple of weeks, right? I made one comment one day on Praise's channel. I think Cheryl said something stupid, and she was defending Gavin because we all know how Gavin behaves, right? And she was defending him. So if I made a comment saying, why do you defend him? The man degrades you. He thinks you're a lower species, for Christ's sakes. Gavin and his be silent woman crap, right? I'm like, what is wrong with you, Cheryl? Why would you defend a man like that? So that's where it all started, right there, like that. And once I started making comments, it was easy to get carried away.
It's all that roast beef that Gavin be sporting, walking around, all that hamburger meat.
Good news, Edward.
Yeah, not roast beef, hamburger meat. What the fuck am I talking? Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the deal.
That didn't come out the way I wanted it to.
So I saw exactly the same thing happen last night among my population of raccoons, where this raccoon, the kind of innocent raccoon, who I will call David, wandered out of the river valley and went to take a bite of food, and some female raccoon got kind of offended by him and went over there and said her piece, and then the male come in and tore after him, and it was just a shit show. But so this is basically raccoon behavior that we're seeing here. So
it truly is. And the funny part about it is these guys, how gay. I accidentally muted. You know how they are, they can say some nasty shit to you in chat, but if you turn around and say anything to them, oh boy, they've got those Christian values and they're better than you. That's how it is. Anyway.
When you said you called that raccoon David, I just got remembered of that Zafrank video. Is that David? I told you not to use this footage. He's an idiot.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What else does Gavin have to say?
He plenty.
Because I reviewed a lot of this the other day. I was talking about this stuff with Dr. Josh, but he had to leave and I had to do my job. So I didn't get this far in that live stream. So this is pretty interesting.
Yeah, this was towards the end, and it was quite funny. Like I said, you listen to him. He gets carried away, and there's some other stuff I'll tell you about. But go ahead if you want to continue.
Okay. So Scott, double rainbow. Your phone went off at the same time your dog started barking.
Oh, sorry about that. Just one of them
What is
days.
wrong with you? Oh, you're an atheist. That's right.
Who is?
That's what's wrong with you.
Oh, you.
I'm sure the tears are flowing. Laurie Hayes. Your throat is probably hard for you to breathe right now. Take some paracetamol and have a bit of a lie down. But anyway, as Praise is still shuffling around, we were chatting the other day about these online atheists, and I don't believe that unicorns exist. I don't believe that any unicorns exist on the earth. However, that's it. I just don't believe they exist.
That's
but
good.
I'm not so bitter and twisted and radicalized in my mind.
What was it that he told? I didn't catch that. What did he tell? What did he suggest that Lori take to calm down, or to take and then have a lie down? Did you guys catch that or not?
No, I didn't catch that.
Okay, never mind then.
I didn't catch the actual name of the drug. It wasn't acetaminophen. It was something else. It was something thin. I don't know what it was, but yeah.
I'll look for it later.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's at 129.50, so I don't know if you want to write that down.
Mind, like an ISIS terrorist, that I would go online and defend my position that unicorns don't exist. I could care less. I could care less about people who think that unicorns do exist. I don't think they exist, and that's it. I just get on with my
if they were trying to teach it in schools, I may have a problem.
Yeah,
right,
yeah. And
right,
when people
exactly.
when people are passing legislation that affects everyone based on the way they feel about those particular religious beliefs,
right.
The society is going to say, "Are you sure?" I don't think so. Yeah.
And if they went to the unicorn to determine their morality, concerning things like sex and basically the right to your own womb, then I would have a problem with unicorn believers.
Yep.
So you can speed this up if you want. Like you can see how he talks so slow. You can easily understand him if you speed it up. If you choose to, you can.
Should we do 1.25
at least that? Yeah, you can at least go to there, if not higher, and you can clearly understand him. No problem.
Oh, got some clarification on the drug. CRISPR said paracetamol, which is what other English speakers call acetaminophen.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck! I went to London and I looking for Tylenol and acetaminophen, or I was looking for acetaminophen and I couldn't fucking find it because of their paracetamol. What the fuck? What is wrong with the English? God damn it! Anyway,
but for some reason, atheists have this obsession, this absolutely psychologically damaging obsession about getting on YouTube.
Wait a minute, this is 1.25
and talking smack to Christians and talking smack about God.
I was just going to ask you to speed it up,
everything like that. And has
you can go probably
noticed,
1.5.
Not one of these atheists that are online will say anything against Islam or against Muslims.
Jesus
or
Christ,
against Hindus.
He sounds normal at 1.5.
Yeah, exactly. He does. That's why I said to speed it up.
I think he took something else other than paracetamol before he went on this.
Yeah, he said, yeah, it's Good Friday here. I think he had a few drinks over Jesus. Is that what they do? Like have drinks over Jesus? Is that what Christians do? I don't know.
They do.
They drink until something breaks, if you get my meaning.
I'm not familiar with the Christian tribe's customs, so I don't know much about it, so I don't know. Okay.
Christians or against Buddhists. Why is that, atheists? If you believe no God exists, why don't you level the same amount of vitriol towards Muslims, for example. You know, Muslims are the second largest religion on the earth, on planet Earth. But you don't say anything to Muslims, do you?
Foreskin. Why does Gavin seem to think that challenging people's beliefs is it somehow equates to vitriol?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't, you know, I mean, there's plenty from both sides here, non-believers and believers, where things can get heated and there can be plenty of vitriol. But if people are just challenging each other by what they believe or what they believe in, and they're having those discussions, that's not necessarily vitriolic. So, what Gavin's doing here is just stupid.
Yeah, and I don't know of a lot of Muslim YouTubers that go after, that are promoting creationism and anti-science to the level that they are. And if they did, I would go after them, you know?
Exactly. And look at the country we live in. How many Christians are in the United States? That's why, Gavin. You know, it's a huge population in the United States. He's just not bright enough for that. But anyway, yeah.
Moving on.
My brother put psychologically. That's how Gideon pronounced it.
Psychologically. Oh, that's great.
Oh shit! This is too funny. I'm sorry. I get a kick out of this. I really do. It's funny.
Actually, CRISPR's is better. Why do you spend so much time talking about Earth when there are trillions of other planets?
What the hell was that, guys?
Garbage disposal? Wasn't on my.
That's pretty good. That's a good one. Okay, I'm going to go on.
Why is that? Could it be that you have extremely deficient levels of testosterone? Could it be that if you have a blood test? Could it be that if you have a blood test, when the panel comes back and it's got testosterone and cortisol levels and all that kind of thing, that area will be blank. It will be actually blank, which means there's no testosterone registering in your body. What are the symptoms of a man who has deficient levels of testosterone? These are the symptoms. He becomes an online keyboard warrior. He uses a false.
He becomes less of an asshole.
So there you go, and that was where I put the comment in there. You know, people that challenge other people's manhood certainly have a have an issue with their own sexuality. That was so. I was needling him as he was saying this crap, and of course he's responding. But it's pretty funny.
Okay.
Yeah. And he sits in his mum's basement at age between 30 and 50 because he hasn't got a woman, and he spouts off behind a fake name and a fake ID.
Got a woman. You have to got one. You have to have one, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So Gavin, if you ever watch this, I'm a married man and I've been married for over 35 years. Let's say I'm on number 36 years, buddy. So sorry.
Yeah. And when I was married, it wasn't quite like I got a woman. It's like, I don't got her. I happen to have a relationship with another human being who happens to be
You got to remember, gotting a woman in Gavin's brain is 250 large.
You gotta have a lot of money to got a woman.
There you go, Jay. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, that is funny.
You got to make sure you got a money back guarantee on that fucking shit too, because sometimes they go away.
Yeah. That is so funny. Oh my god.
Okay.
And that's his life. Red Fang got it spot on. He hit the nail bang on the head when he said atheism has got nothing to do with hope. His very words, if you go up in the chat, Red Fang says atheism has got nothing to do with hope, and that is 100% true. So from the mouth of an online, radicalized, distorted mind of the atheist Red Fang, atheism has got nothing to do with hope. What a way to bring your children up. Not offering them any hope whatsoever.
That is not the same
So I found a quote. So I think this is it. Terminologies from legal sources often provide the basis for defining the parameters of slavery and articulated.
Okay.
There was no fucking segue at all there.
No. Just fucking. I got the passage.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like everything that Gavin was saying was just to fill dead air while he found he tried to cherry pick 160 pages of shit that he thinks is saying slavery didn't exist in the ancient Near East.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least in Israel.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, is there any more, David?
I'm pretty sure that's the end of it right there. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Shit, actually, I don't have the thing in front of me. But there's one other thing too. You might get a little bit of a kick out of. So there was one. It wasn't in the stream. I think it was in the night before's. I had it out with him a little bit, right? And he started going on. I'll have you know that I am in the medical field and all this, right? So of course I said, yeah, exactly. And what did I say? And I said in the chat, I said, and where did you get that certification? At Walmart? Of course I had to say that, right? And then he started going on. And then of course I said, how long did I saw your certificate? I said, how long, did it take you to get it? Was that a 4-week or a 6-week course? And so we had it out a little bit. It was quite funny. So, Gavin, the doctor, right?
By the way, I want to mention that in the description, Bruce Damer is having a Terence McKenna hangout sort of festival. I guess on the anniversary, I think, of his death. I think it's been 21 years, and I put the links to the so that you could sign up for it if you want. And Kafai is going to be there, and I'm going to be there, so should be interesting. It's about psychedelics and and mysticism and things like that. Anyway, wow, everybody got quiet when I said that. What the fuck? Oh, talking about hope and atheism. Yeah, atheism has nothing to do with hope. Being a human has a lot to do with hope.
I don't think that even follows.
What's that?
I don't think that even follows.
What the fuck? That being a human doesn't have anything to do with hope? Where do you think the idea,
They might be coextensional, but they're not reduced to one another, like analytically or logically.
I never said they were reduced to one another. I said if you're a human, you will understand hope and you'll have many things to be hopeful about.
Are you saying that follows?
Yeah. Well, if you're a human, analytic. If you're a human, then you will have hope because that's basically hope is what your brain is built on.
If you think that follows, then it's analytic.
No, it's not. Well, analytic, it's scientific.
I don't know what that means.
What? You don't know what scientific means? Okay,
not in this case, right? I think you're misapplying the term. You're probably using one of your proprietary definitions.
Not exactly. No, I guess if you look at neuroscience, basically you'll find out that our brains built and operate on hope. Only we call it dopamine.
How do you know that?
We have a different name for it. I read the science. I read the fucking papers. I studied the brain. Question. That's a what?
That just begs the question.
Begs the question. I read the papers. Begs the question. Team, what do you think? Does that beg the question?
Yeah, if I make an assertion to X and then you ask me how do I know that, and I just give you a narrative explanation about what caused my belief, I'm not giving you a justification.
Oh, a justification for human beings operating on hope?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't think I'd have to unpack that for you. I think everybody who is a human being would understand that hope is like absolutely better in our lives from the very beginning. I mean, I hope there's ham in the fridge.
Yeah, so you're not going to justify your claim?
I am justifying my claim.
No, you're just giving a narrative explanation.
A narrative explanation. Okay.
Couldn't hope this be seen as akin to anticipation?
The point is that I already said that it makes sense if you're saying it's coextensional with it, but it doesn't make sense otherwise.
Hang on a second here. I'm typing it. Open me. Okay. So you don't believe that humanity and hope kind of go together, in a colloquial way? I mean, you've never had hope in your life, or you don't know anything about. You've never watched a movie.
I already admitted that they're coextensional.
Okay, have you watched 1,000 Hollywood movies where hope was like basically the main narrative in the movie?
I don't see the relevance to my claim that it's coextensional.
I always like the saying, you know, shit in one hand and hope in the other, and see which one fills up fastest.
Okay, yeah. Well, the hope is just something that I believe is woven into all of our culture, all of our humanity, and that's what I was saying. And you want me to make a philosophical argument for it, Danny?
Well, I don't know what a non-philosophical argument is.
You don't know what a non-philosophical argument is? Okay. I think Danny's going to have to go in a corner pretty quick today. He's stirring me up.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about what I said, that hope and humanity kind of go together?
I said they were coextensional.
I said the rest of you. I didn't fucking ask you, Danny.
Are you getting
well, I think that's pretty accurate, because without humans, there's not hope. I mean, I guess animals can have hope, but positive expectation that something good, is coming.
Yeah, it's based in mammals and somewhat in even reptiles and birds, basically. Not if you go and read about it.
Well, that
if you go and figure it out. You want me to explain the whole fucking thing to you right now?
Do you have a justification, or are you just going to give another narrative explanation?
Another narrative explanation. Okay, so when you get up in the morning, Danny, okay, your brain cycles up. And you start spilling a little bit of dopamine into the picture, right? Your limbic system starts to operate you, and you get out of bed. And just getting out of bed is almost an act of hope. And that is sort of the stem or the beginning or the basis of all hope, is putting your feet on the floor and standing up. And then what do?
You're just restating the claim.
Restating the claim.
Where's the justification?
Okay, give me an example of how you would argue for hope being part of humanity. How would you do it?
I already told you they could be coextensional.
Coextensional, and coextensional meaning like having a nose?
No, the idea is that like leaves are coextensional with veins.
Leaves are coextensional with veins?
Yes.
Okay, you don't know why leaves have veins?
That's not. I'm just depicting what I mean by.
You don't understand why leaves and veins are part of the same system and they have to go together?
Well, that's the thing. You're claiming that necessity. I'm not.
Okay.
If A is coextensional with B, that doesn't entail that there's a necessary coextensionality.
I believe it's necessary. I believe being a human being, being a mammal, being alive at all, living your life, it is absolutely necessary that you have hope.
Right. Are you using the physical sense of necessity or logical?
Physical.
Okay. What sorts of laws are there between hope and humans?
Laws between hope and humans?
Right. If you're saying that there are physical or natural laws between hope and human beings, then there are laws. If there's necessity.
Somebody wants you to answer a question in chat. What do you mean by leaves, Danny?
Are you trolling again?
You are right now.
What's the argument for that?
If you're so fucking dumb that you don't understand what I'm saying.
Oh, you're just getting a little angry. This is your non-serious mode.
Yeah, you're starting to piss me off. That's for sure.
This is what happens when you're called out for like not being able to.
Yeah, fuck them.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a channel. Yeah, I don't know what the point of this. I mean, I would just look at hope is defined as a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen.
And right, so, you understand why mammals would have to have that in order to be alive, right? Do you?
I don't know necessarily if all animals would have an expectation to a particular desire. I think that's something that we have, and that we define that with that word hope. But as whether or not that's required, whether or not that's actually required by all mammals is some kind of like way of helping with negotiating the reality that they're experiencing, I would say I'm not seeing that as.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at the idea of hope, and in humans, and you try to relate it to something biological, it's pretty goddamn obvious how that works.
That's just a restating of the claim.
That every animal that moves its foot has to have some sort of a driving force that moves its foot. And it's certainly not something I would call law-like, but it's definitely it's definitely hashed out in biology that the animal has to have some means to motivate. Like you watch a mouse running around in the field, and they'll be they're doing a random pattern. They're doing a search thing. They're smelling things. All of a sudden, they'll pick up a trace. They'll move toward it. That's the basis of hope in humanity.
So,
it's a mammalian thing.
So I think what you're saying is it's like an expectation to a beneficial outcome that leads to a motivation to continue, hopefully.
He's equivocating on hope.
Yeah, but none of those words actually, those are words of our language, our culture, but they're based on an internal biology that you'll see in almost every animal that moves.
Oh, there's the assertion again. And you're also equivocating on hope.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Speed?
Who are you?
Doubting Thomas.
Doubting.
Yeah, I can hear you. I got to turn you up a little bit. But,
all right.
Hey, I got to go, guys. It's getting to that time. I got to run to work. So,
I'll see you, Jay.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Bring Danny back in.
I'll talk to you later, Jay. I sent you a DM.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, you're coming in a little weak, but
I would love to ask Danny a question. It's kind of a little bit off topic, not really, but a little bit. All right. So obviously, you seem a little bit angry right now. At least that's my point of view.
Why would you say that?
I don't know. Well, you tend to, sometimes you come in these streams and you seem to be a little angry about it.
Right.
And I think, all right, so let me explain why I think that is. Okay. I think that you don't like the fact that this is kind of every now and then this turns into a little bit of an echo chamber. You've mentioned it many times before, and you clearly don't like that. So just give me a second. I'll get to my question. And I think that that's what's kind of has you bothered right now. So, because we are mocking and ridiculing the Christians, that's what we were just doing, turns into a little bit of an echo chamber. Clearly you don't like that because you've mentioned it before. But my question is when you go on to Christian channels, right, you don't seem to behave that way with them. I'm not saying that you don't get into philosophical arguments and different arguments with them. But if they ridicule and say things about atheists, you don't seem to respond the same way. And my question is why?
So you're asking why I treat Christians differently from the atheists here on this channel?
Well, no, not necessarily that. What I mean by that is that you seem to. There's no question that this is an echo chamber, right? It turns into that.
I don't have a problem with an echo chamber.
I'm not. Well, I don't know. You've mentioned that before that you didn't like it. I've heard you say that.
It depends. I mean, if I'm being kicked out because they want an echo chamber, then I have a problem with the echo chamber.
But clearly you have to agree that, Christians have echo chambers too.
Well, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with an echo chamber in itself.
But my question is that, or at least in my perspective, I don't see you behaving the same way. Like you seem to be far more angry here, and you don't like it because they're atheists here, and yet they do the same thing, and I don't see you reacting the same way. That's my question is that's the way I feel, or that's my view, and I wondered why.
The nice thing about Danny when he gets in these moods is that basically I don't have to say a goddamn thing. I don't have to say anything. He'll just he will show himself up in what he's doing, so I can just bow out here and let you guys fight with him for a while. You fight about it. Where's the mutable? Yeah, you can.
I want to say, Danny, it seems to me, I might be wrong, but the impression I get from you right now is you came in here to pick a fight.
Sure, I heard something false and I'm addressing it. And then since it's speed, I have a greater reason to address it. Yeah, when I don't have a reason to address, when I hear praise or LPP or Emery or Sal say something false, I don't feel the motivation to correct them. But when Speed says something stupid, then I'm very motivated to correct it. And you should appreciate that. And
the other gentleman's question before me was why?
Why? Because I care
what's the justification for that? What's the justification for that?
I don't know what you mean by justification there.
Because he cares about me.
Well, right.
Because I care
The
about speed.
justification- Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's it.
I'm like his doctor.
Well, your line of questioning was so fucking ridiculous, Danny, that you're taking it to a place that is way the hell outside of the conversation that I was having, and you wanted to have a different conversation. And it's pretty obvious that you're in a mood. I don't know. Do you get a stick up your ass, or do you get like?
I think you're the one that's
not
kicking
eating
me
a
out, and
fiber,
you admitted that you were angry. So I think you're just projecting.
Well, yeah, of course. If somebody comes in and somebody comes in angry and hot, then yeah, and takes the
what makes you think that I'm angry?
in a
Have I called you?
ridiculous fucking direction.
Yeah, what makes you think that I'm angry? I haven't raised my voice. I haven't called you names. I've just said that you've been wrong about things, and then you think I'm angry for that? That's hilarious.
Yeah, you're an angry little man. You are an angry little man. I'm sorry.
I don't know what you mean then.
Pretty fucking obvious. Everybody else saw it here, right?
Danny,
you haven't seen me angry.
You
Danny,
seem to calm
just a
down,
second
though.
ago- Just a second ago, Danny, you agreed. I said it seemed like you came in here to pick a fight.
Yeah.
And you agreed.
Yeah, sure.
But you're
Okay,
saying you don't have to be angry.
So do you pick a fight out of joy?
Yeah.
Or do you pick a fight out of anger?
Out of joy, in this case. Have you ever heard like boxers sometimes fight for fun? Fencers do. Sports people that play video games pick fights, right? Come on, Thomas, you're a better reasoner than this.
So you're just here to entertain yourself by picking a fight?
Absolutely, of course.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah, of course I'm here to entertain myself, but at least I'm benefiting speed because I'm correcting and exposing them.
And actually, can I?
You're a fucking idiot, and you didn't correct or expose anything that I said. You apparently either you didn't understand anything I said, or you wanted to go off on a fucking tangent because you're being a little fucking jerk.
Look who's angry
And
now.
there it
You and Immutable
And there it
can have
goes.
a
It's
conversation.
if you don't, but there it goes. If you don't accept Pete's position, it's either you don't understand it or you're just stupid.
Yeah, Speed is just angry right now. He's in a mood,
Well,
guys.
that's usually the
That's
case with
the
you
best
and
way to
you and
address
Danny.
counter-arguments to your claim.
That's
Yeah.
usually the case with you and Danny.
Speed is emotional, so let's just give him a break, guys. We can change the subject.
He's so committed to his naturalism that he won't, consider other positions.
I won't.
Well, can I say something?
Other positions? What
You
position
haven't?
have you offered?
I've tried to offer my own position, which you've rejected as calling stupid.
Okay, what is your position?
Not
what is
actually
your position
exposing
on
my
hope?
position.
What is your position on hope and atheism?
On hope and atheism, I don't see where hope falls into, like where hope is anything beyond a human construct.
Right. Okay, you think it's only a human construct? You don't think that we could back it up with basically all the way into the brain, into the structure of what we are?
I don't think it applies to other animals. I think it's strictly a human invention.
Okay, what is your argument for that?
Why is it only something particular to humans? Humans are unique in their ability to perceive the far future, and our brains evolutionarily aren't able to really cope with that long of a time scale in terms of how we develop.
Okay, I would
So,
agree
as a result,
with.
as a result, we develop hope.
Okay, but
because
it
we're
was clear.
uncertain
But it was
about
clear
the
that I was using a different. I was using a different definition of hope than the one that says want something today and plan for the future. That I was using a more basic instinctual version of hope, right?
I don't see.
So now you and I have a different version, and I agree with you. If you're talking about the kind of hope where I hope for, it to rain tomorrow, then yes, I agree with you that that probably doesn't. That's probably strictly human, but I don't think it's cultural. I think it's the way our brain is structured.
The way you defined hope, I just view as a misappropriation of terms, because what you're describing is the ability of an organism to kind of properly anticipate its environment and to plan for that environment, which is something that all organisms would have a brain are capable of to some extent.
Okay, and I think that would be the source of hope, basically. If you could see something, like you see something green or something red off in the distance and you're a raccoon, You might think that there's an apple there, so you go and investigate it. And that would be sort of a very basic instinctual part of hope, right? And you wanted to take it, but you took it to another place. You said, hoping for, I hope it rains tomorrow, right? You understand that is one level up, right?
Well, I mean, I think that's the definition I raised of hope is the conventional definition of hope that's commonly referred to. Whereas for me, I'm confused as to why you attribute your own definition to being something akin to hope.
My own definition being something akin to hope, because I think it's basic to how we hope. I think, like a child, you see how happy little children are, before they even learn language. Don't you think that has something to do with hope?
Well, no. I mean, I think it has to do with the fact that children are learning and frivolously trying to you grasp with information and assign weights to what things are considered valuable within their own environment and how to manipulate those environments.
So you're going to make an argument. You're going to make an argument that not only do other mammals not have hope, but even little babies don't have hope.
I don't see the reason to call it hope. I see it as, with what you're describing, I see it as trying to assign weights to relative environmental variables.
Okay. Which I think is kind of at the basis of hope, but that's fine. So you're saying that children don't have hope either?
No, there's under my view, there's no reason to use that word to describe what you're saying.
So what word?
Can I ask the question?
Go ahead.
Immutable, right? That's who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
When would you say hope is learned?
I would say with what Speed is describing, that hope is a process that's kind of built into evolution, that's built into our survival as a species. Right? I don't think
that's not what I asked. I asked you what you think, not what Speed thinks. Do you think hope is learned?
No, I think in the way that Speed is describing hope, that hope is something I'd consider to be innate.
What?
I was going to say the same thing. Yep, innate.
Right,
yeah.
Right. You still didn't. Immutable. I'm asking you. What?
Yeah, and I answered.
No.
I said that under Speed's definition of the word hope, I view hope as being innate. So it's not something that has
under your definition of the word hope, do you see hope as being something that is learned, not innate?
Yeah, hope is under that view of hope. I view hope as something that's learned. I view it as a construct of humans.
Okay, right on. That's all I was getting at.
My view is it's innate, but it's built upon that. It's
right. It's kind of an extension of it, but it's a
constructive. From the reduction, we create a construction, right? And hope is constructed, and it's constructed throughout your life. So your hope as a toddler, and I would never say toddlers don't have hope, is going to be built upon with your and culture is going to come into it. Other human beings are going to come into it. Your lived experience, and you're going to build up this idea of hope. And then it's going to be something where we may project it into the future, that sort of thing. So, but I'm saying that it's innate, that there are innate features of animals that would naturally build that up, and given that you are dropped into the environment that you are dropped into. And even a raccoon has hope when they see something red off in the bushes, or they see my garbage can, or when when they're sitting out here on the fence and I pop up over my monitors and they see me, they have hope that they're going to get fed. So what is wrong with that idea?
Right. I was just about to say, your raccoons come to the trash can hoping they're going to get food. They go to the same spot every day hoping they're going to get food, right?
Yeah. So
I would just call it an expectation, right?
You'd call it, okay, what would you call it?
But that's
I would just call it an expectation.
I still didn't get that word.
I would just call it an expectation.
Okay. Which is, I thought,
it's prediction based on. It's a prediction generated by the brain based upon various variables, based upon the internal state of the brain, and also based upon, some collection of experiences within the past that, an organism is trying to derive a prediction about the future.
But that's innate. right?
I have a question for Speed at some point.
Yeah, go ahead.
By what kind of where you're coming from, and I don't want to straw man you, but then hopelessness would have to be innate too.
Hopelessness.
How do you square that?
I don't know how to define hopelessness even for myself. I don't know what you mean by it. Like what would that entail, or what would that be like?
I guess it would just be the lack of hope, right? Like
Yeah,
if hope,
okay.
what I'm getting at is if hope,
depression.
Yeah, if hope is innate in human beings, then how can there be human beings that are hopeless?
Oh yeah.
Oh well,
So,
that's for me. I view that quite simply.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, I view hope, or what I would coin expectation, as the ability of an organism to make predictions adequately about its environment. And so hopelessness is just not the inability of the brain to not make sense of its environment and to not make adequate predictions, which in a way is kind of what depression manifests itself as.
Okay, that's very interesting, because what you're describing kind of sounds like an overall depression, and that we know is fucking physical. We medicate that. We know it's a low serotonin levels, or and all sorts of other neurotransmitters that aren't quite working right. But there's also a learned aspect to hopelessness, where you can, like, if every goddamn every garbage can, every red thing you see in the environment doesn't yield food, you tend to start to run out of energy, and you get something called hopelessness. So yeah, I'd say that is based on something innate too. So I would say that.
Well, yeah, that's something an organism has learned and misperceived based upon its experiences. So yeah.
Okay, Danny's here yet.
It's a prediction, but it's just one that's doesn't necessarily follow.
Danny's what?
I said Danny's here. So anyway, I think you guys understand my position. This idea that there are these biologically based things that are actually pretty simple systems that, and that would be the reduction of these greater concepts that we have. And from that, you can construct, and when an organism constructs from being a zygote in an environment and in a population, it's a feedback loop, and it builds certain things. And as humans, we have all these words and definitions and languages, and we go much further, obviously, than the raccoons do, right? But I always like to look back to the to what the very basis, what the nugget that it starts from is, right? So that's all I'm saying. But you guys can go ahead and fight with Danny for a while. Or you and Immutable can stroke each other.
Before you go, Danny, I definitely want to ask you, someday I would love to present my argument, what would you call it? My worldview argument someday, and tell me what you think.
This would be a good day. Danny's in a mood.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, he's asking me? Or I thought he was asking you, Speed.
Yeah.
No,
I was asking you someday. I really enjoy some of the, I mean, we've only had very little interaction, but I enjoyed, like the other day, we had a great conversation going, and you had to leave. But we were talking about Darth and all that. So that was kind of that, that type of argument. We were talking about, where do you ground where's your foundation and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of wanted to.
But I'm actually interested in talking about what you think.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I was asking someday. I mean, I don't know.
Someday, let's do it right now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. It could be
all right.
Not ready to.
Okay. All right. Let me make one thing clear to start. I am nowhere near on the level of your, I can't compete intellectually. So I know I'm.
It's fine. I mean,
and I've never ever even attempted this. Never.
Oh,
so I've never even tried to explain. But it was just a conversation that we were having, and it was kind of
my goal won't be to be argumentative here. Speed, I was argumentative here, but I'm not going to be argumentative if you're just trying to understand how things work, you know?
Yeah. All right. And in mine, it's very short. And like I said, I don't understand really a lot of these concepts very well. I mean, I have a pretty good general idea, but so so let's put it in the context of Darth's argument, right? He's always whether I don't even know what the hell. I've never analyzed myself enough. My question, one question I have is, how many things do you actually consider yourself? Like, if you're going to label yourself, whether you label yourself a naturalist, a materialist, how many of those labels do you pile onto yourself? That's kind of my question.
Well, that's a good question, because there's all sorts of views, and is there kind of a really broad view that encompasses all your sub views, so to speak? And I will say this, that the term worldview, I mostly hear it from Christian apologists. We do use it in philosophy, all right, but it just means it's it's a vague term in philosophy. Most people, if you were to ask a random philosopher in some department, what's your worldview? They would definitely ask you, what do you mean? Okay. So very few philosophers will have an answer to that question outright. Okay. I certainly don't.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to say anything other than okay, well, I'm a non-naturalist. I'm a moral relativist. I'm a bundle theorist, and then the list goes on. And this is right. And, the thing is that if there was one view that could encompass all other views, then the disciplines of philosophy would kind of merge, right? Like epistemology would merge with metaphysics, would merge with ethics, right? But these are very independent disciplines, right? So to have one worldview that dictates a particular epistemology, metaphysics, or ethics, that's nearly unheard of. And the reason why you hear that word is because some I won't say religious views, but there are some views that kind of have a social implication as to your epistemology, ethics, and et cetera, and your metaphysics, right? Like Christianity, that has all sorts of, that has a background of metaphysical claims that actually preclude a lot of philosophical views. So if you're a Christian, most Christians think that dictates that you're a moral objectivist, that you're a non-naturalist, that you do that, right? So that's why a lot of these Christian apologists, when they say worldview, they're thinking about something like Christianity that sort of permeates through all of your philosophical views. And there's just nothing really like that in academic philosophy, not even philosophy of religion, right? And I hope that's a little illuminating. So no one should be concerned that they don't have a worldview. I don't, right? I'm going to be one of those people that say, you're going to have to tell me what you mean by worldview.
Can I say something?
That's what makes it, I'm sorry. That's what makes it so confusing for me, is because how much shit do you pile on, right? Like you just said, do you, because I consider myself a naturalist, but then you say, okay, well, does that correlate with materialism? And is that, and all of a sudden you start piling all the shit on, and where do you stop? That's what makes it confusing. Right. So
you're not the only one. Even the professionals have a problem with this question. I certainly do. So now there are the most basic questions. All right. So worldview might mean the most basic metaphysical questions. Like, for instance, what is there? Okay. And if you're a naturalist, you're somewhat addressed that question. So naturalism is a more broad view than something like I'm a falsificationist. Falsificationism is it's a particular view under philosophy of science, right? Blah, blah, blah. But, the idea is that, like I said, there are broad isms and there are narrow isms. Okay. So the question, what is there? You might say naturalist, but Fiona Ellis is a theist, but she's a naturalist. Right. So, so naturalism, even technically speaking, you could be in principle, identify as a theist and be a naturalist, right? There are people out there.
Right.
That
Absolutely.
do that, right? Yep. So it's just this question about what is there's this really funny thing. When you ask a philosopher, what's your worldview? That's almost like asking them, what's your philosophy?
Right. Yeah. And then it's just, you can't even explain that, because you have to pile on so much shit that it's impossible to. Right. Okay. All right.
It's not a good question. It's not a good question.
That gives me a good understanding. Thank you. That was good. Okay.
So can I say something?
Now I don't think I'm crazy. Okay, good.
You're not.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead, talk.
Is trying to be a rational human being a worldview?
I think that's constitutive of agency, meaning that you can't help but try to be rational. That if you're not trying to be rational, you kind of just lose your mind. You literally lose your agency. You become something like a mosquito.
So how about the understanding that science is the best tool ever devised to understand how the universe works? Is that a worldview?
I mean, like I said, if you think that, I mean, I think that's a kind of verificationism. Okay. So you might be a verificationist, but still you can be a verificationist and take any kind of, like, you can be a deontologist with respect to ethics. You can be a virtue ethicist. You can be a consequentialist. You can have all these other views, just like I was talking to David about this, right? Like there's just not a really, like, other than certain religious views, because when someone tells me they're a Christian and they study philosophy, that generates a lot of predictions about what they are philosophically, right? And that's that just generates so much, right? And there's very few things like that in academic philosophy, right? That generate those sorts of predictions. I think religion is actually a unique kind of view. You know, if you're a Muslim or a Christian, well, Judaism is actually kind of doesn't generate the same sorts of predictions. But if you're a Christian in, you know, Alabama and you study philosophy, you can just infer that that they're going to have all these other views, and then I think that's what's meant by a worldview, is like that overarching view. But like I said, for the fourth time, there's just not anything like that in academic philosophy.
Right. Yeah, makes absolute sense, because like we said, you just end up piling on, and I guess that's probably what confused me so much, was because, you know, this, obviously you hear so many of these types of conversations go on about worldviews and you know, naturalism and all, you know, all the different things that you pile onto that, and it just becomes so confusing, because I always analyze it and say, okay, what the hell? I never even gave this a thought. I never said, okay, well, what the hell am I? And am I a methodological naturalist? Am I this, you know? And it just became so confusing. I'm like, okay, I seem to hold to that.
And don't ever feel bad. You know, some of the greatest philosophers or philosophy friends that I have don't identify as any of the isms, right? They don't. If you ask them, they can tell you all about it,
because there's too many.
It's overbearing. It's not just that. It's also the arguments for all of them are very hard to go through. So, like, you know, you might have, I'm a moral subjectivist, and then what happens is you read a survey on moral philosophy and you see all the arguments along with the claims, and then suddenly they all seem kind of like plausible, and it's perfectly fine with saying like, yeah, I just don't identify as any of these, right? I just studied them, and then I mean, you know, then they might ask you, okay, well, if you were in this situation, what should you do? And then that's kind of when they push you against the wall. That's basically making you take a position. But you know, even then they might just dodge the bullet. They might say, I don't know what I would do. Right. I don't know what I would do. And that's, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Right.
Right. So I have a good question. So now, like you said, so if somebody would hold to a certain, like naturalism, for instance, there's an argument against that on all of them, whether you're a methodological naturalist or a naturalist or materialist, or, like we said, all of those different things, right? So basically, a person like you, if I decided to take a certain stance on one of those things, you could probably take an argument and completely destroy that view, right? Against that, because there's arguments against all those.
Here's what I would advise, and this should be advice for speed. This is what I did when I was a Christian 3 or 4 years ago. And I came in and I got hammered with arguments against Christianity, against theism. You know what I did? I said, oh, I have to think about that. Let me investigate the argument. Give me some time, right? I'm still going to be a theist and a Christian, but what I'm not going to do is sit there and make stuff up for rebuttals, you know? And most people don't do this, right? I mean, I have proof. So the first person that I debated on Discord in terms of my community that I'm in now was Jack Angstrike. Okay.
And he's probably the hardest one, right?
One of the hardest ones. Within 20 minutes, he put me in a position where I told him, I don't know anything about this. I don't know how to evaluate the argument. I understand the words you're saying, but it's just too much for me right now. Right. So I said, let me go.
And you need the time to think, right?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Right. That's demonized in debates. Right. That's demonized in dialectics. Right. When you go on a channel, whether atheist or Christian or whatever, right, and someone challenges you on your view, and to say that, well, okay, I see what you're saying. I don't really know how to respond. Maybe something to think about. People don't do that, but it's one of the. It's such a. I think it should be the most respected response because it shows that like you can't just evaluate everything right then and there, right? And also, what it does is that it doesn't. That doesn't mean that you're letting go of your views. It just means you have something to consider.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect
So
sense.
If I meet a naturalist and I give an argument and then they just respond with bullshit, right? Just because they want to respond. Okay. That's when I get very, very feisty, right? You know what they should do? They should say, okay, I need to think about the argument. I don't know what you're really saying. I don't really understand it, but I'm not in a position to respond. Give me time.
Right. And most people won't accept that, right?
And
they won't accept that.
There's that. But honestly, you know what I also respect, despite this not being a good answer, is like, I don't care. I have commitments to naturalism. There's got to be something wrong with your view. I'm not in the position to respond. I'm still going to be a naturalist. I respect that too.
Right. Yeah.
I do. I really do. If they're saying, look, I'm just not going to, I have very strong commitments to this view. I'm not saying your argument is invalid or unsound. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that I have a strong commitment to this view. Like, think about like this, right? I've studied free will. Okay. I can go to some little kid and give him arguments for why there's no free will. But the kid is so confident that he acts freely, right? Or the teen or the adult might think, look, there's rape in the world. Rape requires free will, voluntary and involuntary, right? And I'm not going to let go of the idea that there's rape in the world, right? Because if there's no freedom, if there's no voluntary, involuntary, then there's no rape. Okay, and they might just think about that, and it just doesn't matter what I say. And if they just come out and say, "Hey, look, I have a commitment to there being involuntary events in the world, and I don't really care what you have to say. I'm not letting go of that." Okay, I respect that. Christians do that to me, and then I just let it go. They're just not interested in the argument. They're not interested in the dialectic. And they're just people. Most people, guess what? Most people don't give a shit about philosophy, right? They don't give a shit.
Right.
What they give a shit about is things like voluntary and involuntary, and they're not going to let go of it, no matter what the philosophers say. And I think there's a little.
Can I interject?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
And what's your name? I don't know if I've met you.
David.
Huh?
David, did you hear me? David?
Yeah, David. Yeah. I'm Thomas.
Yeah. Hi, Thomas.
Hey,
I've known you for a long time, but you don't know me.
Right. So all right. Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I wanted to say, and maybe the point you were trying to make is, as far as I can tell, and I'm not learned about any of this philosophy stuff, there's a valid argument that could be made against any philosophical position that you hold. That's the way I understand it. No matter what, somebody's going to have a valid argument against the position you're holding.
Right. That's exactly what I meant by that. Yep.
Do you mean valid or do you mean sound? And that's a big difference to me.
Well, yeah.
Because I think any argument can be valid, right? If I said, Danny said it, therefore it's true. Danny said it, therefore it's true. That's a valid argument.
Right.
Do you mean sound argument?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sound.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. I
Really?
think so.
Do you think there's so you think there's a potentially sound argument for our non-existence? There are people that think that, right? There are people that think we don't exist, and they try to give arguments for it.
Yeah. So maybe you should probably go with most. Right?
Yeah.
I think if I did enough research, I could find a philosopher that would have a sound argument for what you just said.
I don't think so. I could respond to it immediately. The fact that they're giving the argument defeats the argument.
But now, Danny, I'm going to ask you for a little bit of charity here. Do you understand the point I'm trying to make?
I think what you're generally saying is that you can find fairly sophisticated arguments for any position. That there's a level of argument, whether sound or not sound or invalid or whatever, that it's going to be hard to respond to. Okay. And I think that's what I mean by sophisticated, difficult to respond to, right? Take Daniel Dennett. Okay. Daniel Dennett has insane views on my view, right? But he is very sophisticated, very well respected. And I just bought his book because if I'm going to ever be an expert in philosophy of mind, he's worth reading. Okay. I think his conclusions are nuts, but he's sophisticated. He's thoughtful. You can learn from it. Okay. And if I didn't know anything, like if I was a teenager and I read Daniel Dennett and his his conclusions are not, I can't hold to his conclusions, right? I might not be able to respond to the argument because he's so sophisticated. He's learned, right? He's educated, whatever. He's done research. I think that's what you mean. If you don't mean that, then I really don't know what you mean.
Okay. So let's see. What do we got from here?
I think David knows what I mean.
Can I interject something here, guys?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Nothing to do with any of this. I just found a paper from 1994 or an article by a guy named John Maddox. 1994, John Maddox was 13 years old, so this can't be him. But the name of the article is The Genetic Code by the Numbers.
He's cloned himself.
Wow. Yeah, I got to read this shit, man. I just found it in my stack of papers. Anyway, carry on, guys.
Okay. That was funny.
Hey, I gotta drop. My phone's overheating. But thank you all.
All right, Thomas.
Danny, Danny, you have a great mind. I mean, we have our differences and we butt heads, but I have a lot of respect for your mind.
I don't dislike
the way you think.
Yeah, when he gets older and he learns how to use it, it'll be really wonderful.
Speed's making more unjustified assertions. Exactly. But Thomas, I think that you asked Speed a very good question, and it was not very well addressed. You asked him about hopelessness, and then Speed asked you to clarify what you meant by hopelessness. But presumably, Speed had a concept of hope. If he has a concept of hope, he has a concept of hopelessness. Just negate his concept of hope. That's hopelessness. You asked a good question.
I know. I thought he answered it pretty well myself.
Oh, I don't think so.
Well, yeah. Come see, come saw. Anyway, I gotta go. Yeah.
Yep. See ya.
Try to make little videos of the philosophy of Lord of the Rings.
Really? What is that? Like,
oh, is that the ones that they have at Barnes and Noble? All the philosophy of this and that. They have all these.
I didn't get it from Barnes and Noble, but I wouldn't be surprised if I saw it from Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, they have a whole bunch of them at Barnes and Noble. They have the philosophy of the Walking Dead and a bunch of.
Oh yeah, okay. I wonder if it's the same. I have to look into it. But before I bought it. I looked at the table of contents and I loved it. So I'm going to, but I'm gonna have to. It's going to be a lot of work, so I probably won't do it to the summer. But I'm going to do a whole playlist of videos that do the philosophy of Lord of the Rings, and then kind of base it on this book because I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan.
Yeah. All right.
Does that make you feel better? I'm glad I helped a little bit, David, because
with a philosophical argument.
I'm glad I helped a little bit. So you feel better about this whole worldview stuff and.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, a little bit of my background was, I've been a long time listener on this YouTube stuff. I've listened to hundreds of philosophical arguments, of course, Alex Malpass, Ozzy Mendez, you listen to 1,000 Darth Dawkins ones, all that stuff. So it's been a very interesting arguments. So of course, when you listen to all that stuff, you really think about how you would argue it yourself, what your worldview is. all these terms, what all these terms mean, and that kind of stuff. So just been interesting, and I've listened to a lot.
You know
of
what
it,
my
so.
experience is? My experience, and this is just like not even, I'm not making a strong claim here, but what I've noticed is that the simpler answer is usually right. But now the simple answer can be explained very complicated way. So you have to like tackle all the jargon and the arguments, and then you realize it's very simple. Okay. Like for instance, my dualism is it's complex for sure, but essentially, if you had to reduce it to something like very simple, it's this, right? Naturally, we distinguish like things like physical and mental pain, right? So at least that delineation, right, presents a kind of dichotomy, and that's what dualists want to track. Now, I'm not saying physicalists are wrong, right? I think a physicalist can make sense of that distinction. I know that they can, right? They just mean something different by the word physical, sure. But notice that like there's a kind of simpleness to that, right? Like, oh, if it's the case that I'm right, okay, then what I'm doing is just tracking what we're doing when we're saying, oh no, I'm not in physical pain, but I'm in mental pain, And so same with like, I mean, I just find a lot of this, if you think about philosophy as asking the most fundamental questions, like very, very basic questions, usually they just don't have these really complex answers. Once you've reduced all the nitty gritty and the jargon and the writing to, it's just like, it's just simply, it's the case that X, Y, Z, but I that's my experience. Right.
Right. No, makes sense. It should be that way. I mean, because like you said, you can just pile on so much. And I think that's probably why I struggle a little bit with philosophy, and probably most people. It's like you're piling on a lot of stuff and it kind of really gets complicated.
Like my view of ethics is it's actually really, really simple. It's just that everyone's wrong, right? Like look, when you're trying to develop a moral theory, you're presented with Bentham and Mill and Kant and Hursthouse and the divine command theorist on like the Craig side and philosophy of religion. There's all these views, okay? And then I just take the position, why do I have to further understand the good in terms of something else? Good, it's just good. There's no further reduction, right? It's like greenness to me, right? Good is like greenness. If someone asks me, what is green, right? And I'm going to say there's a point at which it's just green, right? It's just the thing, the experiential state that is green, the universal that is green, the property that is green.
In the same vein, would you stand against the reduction of hope?
Yes, that's why I was pushing back against you.
Okay, got it.
Right? Because the idea is that there's no further hope understood in terms of humans. Now, if you're understanding hope in terms of like intentionally, okay, then there's something to talk about there. But like the good for me, right? There's just good, and it doesn't predict a human, a dog, an apple, a cake. There's just good value. That's it. Okay. And so that's not a very good picture that I'm painting here, but I'm just trying in terms of what the good is. But when Kant says goodness is that which correlates with the categorical imperative, that you take whatever maxim and universalize it. If you can universalize it, then that's what you should do. Right? Or Bentham and Mill that say, well, goodness is a maximization of pleasure with the greatest number of people. We're trying to minimize pain. Or the virtue ethicist, that good is a model of a virtuous person where they have these attributes of generosity, honesty, blah, 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 blah. Or the divine command theorist that, no, we have to understand God's commands and blah, 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 blah. And it just goes on. These theories goes on. And I'm like, wait. And I took a step back and I got a lot of help as well, right? I'm like, these people are all trying to find good in terms of something else that's not good. Right. And so then I just took a step. These for me, I know this might sound arrogant, but I'm just telling you, there are a lot of people that do agree with me that I think it's just irreducible. It's not definable in terms of something else.
Yeah. If you'd come in and said that you stand against the reduction of hope, then we would have had a totally different conversation.
Well, but the point is that you understand hope in terms of brains. I think you're doing the same thing as a Christian when they say they reduce good in terms of commands, right?
Really?
Yeah.
So, wait. So you compare neuroscience to the Bible?
Yes, I just did.
Oh, okay, cool. That's
Do you
good.
understand? Do you understand the common property between them? Right. And with respect to this discussion, it's this, right? Here you have the neuroscientist saying good is certain brain states. Okay. Here, brain states it's just descriptive. And then you have a Christian saying good is in terms of God's commands, but God's commands are descriptive. So it's committing the same fallacy, according to G.E. Moore, right? No matter whether it's ethereal or not, the point is that I don't understand the good in terms of anything else. Instead, I just understand the good as being coextensional with something. So take the notion of green, for example. Green is coextensional with leaves, but I'm not going to define greenness in terms of leaves, right? That there's a correlation, right, between leaves and greenness, right? There's a correlation between cake and goodness. There might even be a correlation between a brain state and good and God's command as being good. But the point is that goodness is by itself. Goodness is by itself, just like greenness is by itself.
Cool. Okay.
One note here I want to make. Surely, Danny, surely you are going to have artist renditions of yourself for your Lord of the Rings series.
Oh yeah.
Of you as an elf, you as a hobbit, you as a wizard.
That's a good idea. That's such a good idea. So I should like dress up for. I might have misheard you. Right.
But just drawings like for the cover art of each of your videos. Don't we know a guy who's an artist, Nathan Artwork?
We do know a guy.
You better consider that. I need to see you as a hobbit.
Yeah, that's a good idea, but I might actually dress up for the videos itself, but that might be a lot of work.
Okay, guys, before we get a new topic, it's coming up on 4 o'clock, and I want to shoot the stream in the head. So, okay.
Don't forget about Jay's video at 5.
Absolutely.
Jay Patrick.
Okay, and we are having a talk of Mutable and maybe Leo. We haven't heard from Leo on desire and some of this reduction stuff, and we'll probably get into hope and stuff, and that's going to be at 8 o'clock tonight. So hopefully that'll be cool. Anyway,
good luck, Leo, and
all right.
Yeah, it's going to be tough on them.
That's a good response.
That was brilliant. Yeah.
Okay.
That was. Yeah. All right, Danny, thank you so
word?
much for talking. Yeah, I just was saying thank you to Danny for doing that.
I love talking about this stuff, but yeah, just it's all complicated, but really it's just a bunch of it produces some very basic things like your human experience. That's how we philosophize, right? So just stick to your experience, right?
Occam's razor.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to continue it. This is certainly a lot of fun to talk about. So we'll have to continue it again sometime.
Okay, boys and girls, we're ending the stream. Goodbye.
Stay curious.
We'll see you later.